told me at that hospital in 2014, this was in March, there had already been 7 people put on the ECMO. And out of those 7 people, I was the only one that lived.
ARDS, or acute respiratory distress syndrome, is one of the most life-threatening conditions in critical care. But what exactly is it, and how do patients survive it?
What is ARDS? ARDS is a restrictive type of respiratory failure. It occurs when the lungs get severely inflamed and the alveoli get filled with fluid, making it hard for oxygen to get into the bloodstream. What makes this syndrome so dangerous is that it prevents oxygen from reaching other important body parts, such as the brain, kidneys, stomach, and heart. Phase 1 of ARDS. Exudative phase, 24 hours after initial lung injury, intense inflammatory response, resulting in alveoli sacs are injured, which causes the alveoli to collapse. ARDS phase 2. Proliferative, 14 days after injury. Repair and regenerate occur, resulting in pulmonary edema, resolves as fluid reabsorption begins. Phase 3 of ARDS. Fibrotic phase, 3 weeks after injury. It varies, not apparent in all patients, and severity varies widely. Fibrosis or scar tissue, which causes thickened alveolar walls, decreased lung compliance, remodeling of lung structure, which equals permanent lung damage.
I was honored to be able to sit down with a remarkable duo in the field of respiratory care. Not only do they share a life together, but they share a deep commitment in helping patients breathe easier. They bring a valuable insight from the front line of critical care. We will be discussing their expertise and perspective on how to manage patients with acute respiratory distress syndrome, a serious condition which demands skillful respiratory support. Please enjoy the interview.
Jessica Parkos.
Patrick Johnson.
Patrick Johnson. And then how long have you guys been RTs?
I've been an RT for 5 years.
4 months.
Can you describe your experience managing patients with ARDS?
I think majority of mine when I was working in North Bay, our ARDS patients, we typically, because I did work NOC, so typically it was my job to run the ABGs to ensure the PDF ratio was good. Other than that, we did proning and flow land typically.
So from what I can remember, my experience was, it was a lady, she was there at the hospital, it was a domestic rotation at Kaiser Roosevelt. She was there for a few months actually. I just know she had a lot of like fluid in her lungs, a lot of ground glass appearance. So we did proning we had to obviously use the ARDS protocol, like the high peeps, low tidal volume, stuff like that. But I know the main thing was the proning we did. We did a lot of proning, so which that helped her a lot.
Have you managed any COVID ARDS patients, and if so, how do they differ?
Just from my experiences, what I observed is that a lot of the ARDS patients that had COVID were also had some sort of like obesity or morbid obesity or some type of blood pressure issue. That's typically what we saw with those prone patients and the patients that go on flow land. They have a whole bunch of things going on at once.
Most ARDS patients on vents?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because ARDS is like an oxygenation problem, so our job as RTs to fix that oxygenation. That's why doing the proning help fix the lung recruitment and stuff.
We have like a team of like 5 or so people go in. You have like somebody that's a team leader, then you have RT at the head of the bed, and it's kind of tricky because of all the tubing, and then they have all their lines.
Yeah.
Some of them I've never seen like the prone machines where they carry them, but we've done them with like the blankets and the towels, and we flip them like a pancake kind of, and then we just flip the head. That's mostly what ours and secure tubing.
What do the vent settings usually look like for ARDS patients?
I feel like those are pretty universal. You start them off at the same, exactly what they tell you in school. High PEEP and then the low tidal volume, and then also I can't really remember what mode. I want to say pressure control is something that I've been used to, but I know that volume control is also something that is important. I think they start off on volume control and then eventually into pressure control.
Yeah. But the main thing is we just want to focus on those low tidal volumes. So they typically, per protocol, they want to target 4 to 6 milliliters per kilogram for the ards net. So that's typically that's what we kind of go for. So I think that's why the volume control is probably the best one for that, because you can get those targeted.
Okay. So how much are you guys involved with the nurses during ventilation and?
That's like a team effort. Usually a team effort. So usually during rounds, especially the doctor will come around, the nurse. So it's all collaborative teamwork. So we just discuss on we give them our opinions. Hey, I think we should go up on the PEEP, or vice versa, or fix the tidal volume a little bit more, or whatever. So we just communicate that with the nurses as well. So I mean, it's all really a team effort. Yeah.
I feel like it's heavier respiratory. So I think because we're constantly in there. I remember just being in there every 2 hours checking on the ARDS patients, but they're focused on managing heart, right? So they want to balance and make sure that their blood pressures are coinciding with what they need and they're oxygenating well enough. And sometimes they might even be, it's called permissive hypercapnia. So the CO2 will go up, but that's okay as long as oxygenation is going up, and just making sure that we're managing and on the same page.
Do you see doctors a lot? Do they come a lot, or is it mostly on you to look over the patients?
They definitely come, especially when they're at such high risk like that.
Yeah.
And when I worked in North Bay, they had intensivists, and they were in the rooms outside of the ICU floor, and they would come in round, and you call them every, let them know they want to know what the gases are, if they're critical and stuff. You have to call them directly. You don't let the nurse know. So.
Yeah. So typically, because they always have rounds. I don't know about every shift, because I know some places don't do night shift rounds, but some bigger hospitals typically do.
Yeah.
But they have rounds, and that's when they always go over it. And exactly what she said, they want to know every gas you do, especially when they have to report what's critical. So they're pretty involved.
My boy Kyle, the best RT there will be in the future, went out of his way to find a ARDS survivor and got an incredible interview. So please enjoy. Welcome, LaToya Patton and her story.
I am LaToya Patton, and in 2014, I I got ARDS. I started off as what the doctors thought was pneumonia, but it really went downhill from there. And luckily, I did recover, and I would say fully recovered ever since then. So I was pretty healthy. I was, about the same size I am now. The only thing that I would say that is different, and I feel like it may have contributed to it, is I had started smoking, honestly. And I just started that same year. I believe that was my first time ever being diagnosed with pneumonia also.
Did you know about ARDS, or what ARDS was at the time?
Had never heard of
Yeah.
that at all. But of course, I learned so much about it since then.
Okay, next question. What was the daily treatment like? So you started in the hospital, had pneumonia, then it started to get worse. Then I'm guessing you got placed on a ventilator of some sort.
I had 2 times that I visited the emergency room with it. The first time I was just, it was, I guess you could say, basic pneumonia symptoms. Because at first I thought it was cold, but it got really bad. And they gave me prescription and just told me to go home and rest. Went home, I tried to just, eat soup and stuff and just rest up. But it kept getting worse. I went to work because I was working. And they actually told me, "You look horrible, go home."
Oh my God.
I went home, I took a nap. I woke up and I was coughing up some blood.
Oh.
And that's when it got real for me. And even that whole day, I remember posting on Facebook, I was like, oh, it took me 20 minutes to get out of the car. I was just so exhausted. And that was due to my
gosh.
low oxygen already, which I didn't realize at the time. He was like, call the ambulance. And I did. It was hard to get to the door just to wait for the ambulance. And EMT was like, oh, they're going to keep you. My temperature was 103 and my oxygen was in the 70s. It was really bad.
Oh man.
I
Right?
stayed conscious until they put me into a room, I guess in like a triage room. And I was having these little breathing attacks, is what I call it, like where you like almost like gasping, you can't get any air in. To that, I really don't remember much, but it's what's told to me. My sister was there, and she says that they told me I was still conscious, that they wanted to put me on the ventilator, and they wanted to induce a coma. I think that's when they said that. And I said, okay, I'm just so tired. And
Mhm.
from there, I'm told that they could not keep my oxygen up. And that's when they made the decision to put me on ECMO. However, I had to be life flighted to a hospital that had, I guess, the resources. But they also said they life flighted the ECMO to the hospital as well. 2 weeks, I just laid there. I had white lung, is what they said. Everything was
Yeah.
white on my scans. They told my family the prognosis was bad. And I was even told that they sent a sample to the CDC because
Oh my gosh.
they couldn't figure out what exactly. So they just like piggybacked all these medicines on me. 2 weeks, I woke up. I was on the ventilator only. They had taken off the ECMO. And it was just a long, hard recovery. I was in the hospital for 58 days. I went down to the regular floors, and
Oh,
but
that's good.
I had to have respiratory therapy. I had to have X-rays daily while I was in the ICU, and it was just I couldn't eat at first because they also had me on a feeding tube while I was in a coma, and so I had to like wean back onto food. I had to learn how to walk again because I had lost a lot of muscle, I guess. Came out neurologically, I was affected because I couldn't stop shaking. They told me at that hospital in 2014, this was in March, there had already been 7 people put on the ECMO. And out of those 7 people, I was the only one that lived. And on top of all the other ICU doctors and nurses, I had to have someone constantly monitoring the ECMO around the clock. They literally ministered to me. They would come in every day. They would, just keep me encouraged, because that I learned was a huge part of the recovery, is to keep the patient positive, because there's so many times that you're just overwhelmed by how far you still have left to go. I had a hard time just trying to put my mind around. I basically wasn't here for 2 weeks. It's like everything is new again. Everything felt new again to me when I got home. I came out on the other side. I had a moment where a pastor came and prayed with me right after I woke up, and it just was overwhelming. And I just knew that I'm here for a reason. And I get reminded of it almost every day now. Respiratory therapy, all of these medical fields, you save lives by the grace of God. You change and save lives. So that's the biggest thing I want to say.
As we've seen, acute respiratory distress syndrome is more than a medical diagnosis. It's a battle for every breath. Behind every ventilator is a team of caregivers fighting alongside the patient, and behind every mask is a story of strength, science, and hope. While ards can strike suddenly, awareness, early intervention, and continued research are turning the tide. The journey isn't easy, but together, through knowledge and compassion, we can breathe life into recovery. Thank you for watching and for standing with those who fight for every breath.